Hi, I'm Uncle Al, and I'm here to tell you what you didn't learn in school, what you may not have gotten from your folks, and I'm guessing your neighbor actually might understand this one. Now is never then. What? Now, now is never then. What? Uncle Al, what do you mean? Well, let me explain. Now, the way we look at things, the way we do things, the way things are is never then. We as human beings, and this is normal, so you have to understand that. It is very normal for us to put onto what happened before the way we think, believe, and want things to be now. But that's not then. You need to understand your predecessors both knew less and had less. The people that came before us in time, the then, they didn't know things we know. Crap. In my lifetime, that has changed immensely. I was born before we'd gone to the moon. That's not that long ago. Crap. This has more power in it. Way more computing power than things of simply 8 years ago, 10 years ago, let alone on Apollo 11. They had less. When you try to compare, I've heard this from some young people. Back then, they went and bought a house. Back then, when they bought a house, they didn't have 30 other things pulling on their bank account. They didn't have a Netflix account. They didn't have an Amazon Prime. They didn't have an Apple TV. They weren't spending 45 frickin' dollars on just Uber Eats on one meal. Then it was different. And if you look at now and try to make it fit into then, boy, are you missing some things. Yeah, it's hard right now compared to 10 years ago or 15 years ago for young folks to get into a house. But it wasn't for the people in the 50s and 60s either. They had to work hard. It wasn't handed to them. Yeah, there was a broader demographic in the middle class. Let me tell you a little trick about then. The amount of the middle class has shrunk. So when you compare then to now, you have to account for the shrinkage. There are more people sitting on the top of the curve and the bottom of the curve compared to the middle of the curve back then. Then is not now. They knew less and they had less. Another thing you need to be aware of when you're trying to put now into then is piety. The way you look at the world, whether it is religious or not, and let me remind you, your worldview is your religion, whether it is theistic with God or secular. You have a religion whether you admit it or not. And when you apply that religion on those people, then you're making a mistake. Park your piety. They didn't know things, they didn't have things, they hadn't experienced things compared to then. Park your piety when you look at then. I don't understand why anyone would have slaves. I agree 100%. But there's slaves now, and there used to be slaves everywhere. when you look at the past, please try to be objective, and you gotta park your piety. Now is not then. Now was never then. One other thing I want you to understand when you're trying to compare now and then is fear is specific to a particular point in time. Now, for those of you that aren't very young, there was a fear after 9/11. There was a fear after Pearl Harbor. You don't feel those now. If you were old enough to have remembered Pearl Harbor, and there's very few that are alive now that do, but there's a lot that remember 9/11 and remember the fear. That fear was specific to a point in time. They had it. You may not feel it. You may not understand it. It may not make sense to you now. And that's because now is never then. When you take and have a hard look at what happened in the past, and it's important to look at what's happened in the past, please remember, whatever fear they experienced and whatever fear you experience is specific to that time frame. Fear does not translate well over millennia, other than spiders, I think, and snakes. So, I don't mean to be that preachy, but I am very concerned that too many of you, and this is way more common in Gen Z and Gen Alpha, that you are confusing now with then. And it's a mistake. Now is never then. But then's important to understand so we can figure out what to do now. Just saying. Hey, I'm Uncle Al from the Markus of Americus Project. And if you like this video and you want to help put politics back into a lane it belongs, because boy, it belongs in a lane, please come to the Markus of Americus Project, where I do more of these Uncle Al videos, and I do some interesting things about getting politics out of everything. One of them is these 8 questions. Please share those around. It's an election year here in the States and a lot of other places. And these questions are designed to transfer. I don't care if it's the dog catcher or the prime minister or the president or a congressman. These questions will work for you. So please use them and spread them around. I hope that you're enjoying these videos. I hope you look up Markus. And until the next time we see ya, bye.